Hi guys, what are we going to do today? We're going to do something a little different. Do I always say that? Today we really are. We are going to learn to solder. We're going to do some solder with copper tape using some fun techniques with transfers and paper. Let's get started. So to do this project, I am using 2 microscope slides. And then I am going to putting an image in between, but you'll also need some copper tape. And we're going to be doing some soldering. I thought would be really fun. I could have just put a transfer in this. I could have used decoupage paper, but I really love this little bird. And this is from my IOD transfer, brocante, and it's actually the cardboard off the back. And it's so little that I thought this would be so cute in here, and then I would layer it with some other things. So I am first going to fussy cut these little guys out. So with my piece of glass, what I'm doing is I can see that my birds will fit in there, and I will need a little edge for my copper tape and soldering. But I thought it might be kind of fun to use one of my decoupage papers on here also. So what I'm going to do is put a small thin layer of clear gel acrylic medium, and you can use your favorite decoupage medium that you would like, actually on the front of the back piece of glass. All I'm going to do is take my decoupage paper and I'm rubbing it on the glass where I put my medium, and then I'm just going to very lightly, because I don't want to break this glass, very, very lightly sand the edges to get the excess paper off. And then I am going to decoupage the birds on the top of this. Now I know it's going to be really close. I want to make sure I don't lose their heads, so I'll probably bring them a little lower, because if I lose a little bit of the tail, that won't be as bad as losing their heads. I'm going to use just a little bit of my Vintage Photo Distress Oxide and just lightly go around the edges here. And since the cardboard is sticking up when I do this, it'll kind of antique the edges of the bird also. And I'm going to bring it in because I'm going to have my copper tape on the edges. And this will get a little bit lighter too. The paper looks very dark right now because it's wet. Even though I distressed this already, I want to make the paper look a little clearer. So I'm going to put a little bit of clear wax on this so that after we put the top layer of glass on, and this is held up to the light, makes the paper more translucent. You just want to make sure you don't have any wax on your glass where your tape is going to stick, or it's not going to want to stick to that. I'm going to put my other piece of glass on top of this. So I now got these sandwiched in between my glass. I am going to use my copper tape, and you can find this at a hardware store, in the jewelry section of a craft store. Now with this, you can start at any edge you would like. I do like to start at the front though, so I can see where my tape is going. Lay this down on this edge. Lay this copper tape on this edge. I'm laying it flat against the sandwiched pieces. And I am going like this. I'm going to fold the corners in. Laying it across there. So you can see I have a nice flat corner here. I'm going to press it down so it miters these. It looks like it's almost like a nice little miter there in the corner. And make sure everything's sandwiched nicely. A little bit in the front. Make sure it's covering in the back. I'm going to trim this very close. And the more you play with this tape and use it, it gets easier and easier to handle, and you'll find out which way you like using it and which way you like putting it on, whether it's right to left, left to right. the top edges, the bottom edges, the fronts, the backs are all at once. You could have actually decorated the inside, backside of the glass before you even laid the paper down, and that would have shown through to the back. But you could also still add some fun words or add something to the back of the glass. I need to burnish this down a little bit. Some people just like to leave the copper tape and it is finished like this. I am going to use my solder over the top. Now, one thing you're going to notice, like right here, it's going to be thinner here. Wherever this copper tape is showing is where your solder is going to go. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put a little bit of my flux on here. And this is just called liquid soldering flux. And it helps your solder move. And I don't want to get it everywhere. I really just want to get it on the copper. You could do it all at once or just do a little bit at a time. You're going to notice real quick when you're putting your solder down, if you haven't put the flux in that area, then you just add a little flux to that area. But you could just cover the whole thing at once. And I've just made myself a little stand with a couple clips to hold this. So this is actual solder, and solder comes in a lot of different metals. And I am using a soldering iron that you want to heat up, and you want to be very, very careful. I have this little board with a sponge that's wet, so if I have to clean this off, and I have this little stand here that I can set this. I usually work on a piece of glass, but because of the reflection, I think we're just going to show this here to you. So my soldering iron is hot, and I'm just laying my solder on here, and you're going to see how it's going to start melting, and in a minute, then I'll start moving it around. Everybody does it different. I am not the master solderer. What I do then is just run my tip. The soldering iron, even though I had like a big blob of it on there, when I lay it down, I can just run it and smooth it out. Kind of like an iron getting wrinkles out. So the solder is actually sticking to the copper tape, and the flux helps it adhere. So if you don't have copper tape there, it's not going to cover there because it needs to adhere to another metal. I'm going to get a little bit more. See how I have a little ball there, and I am just using this so when it melts it, you can just smooth it out. I'm going to take it and turn it. It is very warm. Pretty much after you've moved your soldering iron off the area, it's going to become hard very quickly. And anything that has a big bump, I said all you do is retouch it again and smooth it out. And I can see some of the flux has gotten onto my glass. You can see the orange, but I'll clean that off after I'm done. And a lot of times there's enough solder on here still that you can move it around, unless you want your solder to be thicker. And always be mindful. This is going to be warm. That's why I usually work on glass, so I can just lay it down. Take a little more caution if I'm working on a piece of paper or on a piece of wood. Let this cool off for a second, and then I am going to put my clip down here. Just smooth this out a little bit more. Now we are going to add jump ring to the top. So I'm going to put a little bit of flux in between the opening of this jump ring right here. I'm going to put the picture this way sideways because I wanted it to run up and down, and I think that's still very, very cute. Now, of course, you do not want to be holding this jump ring in your hand while you are soldering, because the heat conducts into metal, and you'll be letting go of it really, really fast. So what I want to do is I want to solder this jump ring to the top of here. So I need to melt some solder to the top to get a little pile there, and then I'm going to heat it, and then I'm going to lay this on there and hold it so it attaches. I'm going to put a little ball of solder right there. You have a very short time. So a lot of times this takes a little bit of practice. So I'm just using rubbing alcohol, and I'm going to try to clean this extra flux off of here, off of my glass. I can't get all of it off and it's really gummy. I'll just use some steel wool and then clean it again with my rubbing alcohol. I'm just going to use a little transfer on the front of the glass. And you actually could have put this on your project before your two pieces of glass together, and then it would stay sealed. I just thought this would be fun, kind of give it a 3D effect on top. And you want to be really careful when you're pushing on your glass, if you're going to do this, because you don't want to crack your glass. You could add a sealer over that. I'm not going to. And the last thing we're going to do is I'm going to put a black patina over the metal. And I'm using this one right here, and it's just for solder. This patina you just put over your soldering and it blackens it. It makes it look a little bit older, aged, not quite rusted, but black. I probably should mention they say that this is something you should be doing in a well-ventilated area. I think that will be good enough.
Hope you had fun with this. Isn't this just so cute? And can you think of 100 other ideas of what you could do with this? Hope you guys give this a try, but whatever you do, have fun.